Good afternoon. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about preparation of your instructional recommendation summary and also to give you a little bit of feedback. I sent each of you a document that contained information related to my comments on your assessment summaries. One of the things that I want you to be very clear about is what the source of your assessment was and what was the level of that assessment. Many of you, for instance, would say I did a DIBELS oral reading fluency at second grade, but oral reading fluency at the second grade has a beginning of year, middle of year, and end of the year passages, so you need to specify which of those you were using. In some cases, I will tell you, I was concerned that it looked like folks didn't assess until they got to the highest level at which the student was demonstrating instructional level reading. So if you have a chance or if you're planning any other visits, that would be a helpful thing to include and certainly something that you'll need to be aware of when you go back to do a repeat assessment. In terms of you need to include in your recommendations, make sure that you identify any strengths that both the tutor told you about, that you observed, and certainly that your assessment revealed. And it's always really important to stress strengths before we start talking about potential areas where the child has an opportunity for growth. And again, same thing. Is that something that you learned from the tutor, you observed, or that your assessment gave you information regarding? Make sure on your recommendations they should clearly be tied to your assessment information, but they may also be that you had a child who was easily distractible, or the student fatigues easily, or the student would prefer to chat with a tutor rather than engage in academic work. And feel free in your recommendations to include those strategies. We don't want to be real dictatorial, but we do want to say these are some things that you might try in order to increase that student's ability to stay on task. And I noticed that some of you, for instance, mentioned that they're using a ticket system to provide positive reinforcement. You may have some ideas about how that could be used more efficiently or effectively. You can feel free to include that there. In terms of your measurable goal, and I originally said goal or goals, but probably you should think, given the limitation in the number of tutors and the amount of time they're able to work with individual students, I would establish one goal that you feel like is most important given all of the information that you were able to gather. And you need to think about making sure that that goal includes both a condition, a behavior, and a criteria. So I'll go through, and in fact, I'll go through and modify these instructions if needed, and make a note of that when I send you your information. But remember, a condition says under what circumstances will the child be able to exhibit that particular skill. So it may be that if you're trying to improve reading fluency, you would say, given the DIBELS third grade middle of year passage, the student will read. That would be your behavior at 95 words correct per minute with at least 90% accuracy, and that would be your criteria. So remember that you need a condition, you need a behavior, and you need a criteria. And then you can suggest several strategies that can be used to help reach that goal. And one of the things that I would have you bear in mind is that, again, these tutors don't have a lot of professional training in reading. And so the more concrete suggestions you can give them, the better. And the more that you can relate what you're wanting them to do to things that would be something that they could easily access. So I know that we have a student who had a need in phonemic awareness. So that tutor, or the student, my student that worked was assigned to that student, designed an Elkanon box that the tutor could use to have the student, segment sounds and words. And they were providing a storybook that could be read, and then those would be the words that would be segmented. Something very simple, very concrete that the tutors can put into place. In terms of what they have available at the center, they generally have leveled books. They may not have a huge selection. They also have some binders that were put together out of the Florida Center for, I think it's reading research. that have ideas for how do you do phonemic awareness, how do you do phonics, how do you build vocabulary, how do you improve comprehension, all of those sorts of things. How do you increase fluency? And you can make recommendations about things that can be done there. They have some making words, lots of making words packets. If you're familiar with Patricia Cunningham's Making Words, where students are given a series of letters and they put those letters together to make as many words as they can, and they read those words, and then they also have sort of a word puzzle that they're working out in combination with that. So that might be something you can recommend if one of the things the student needs to work on is decoding. Excuse me, my phone's ringing and I'm going to turn it off while I'm talking to you so that it doesn't ring again. There are game boards there that you can suggest be used to make the learning more fun. If you'll remember, if you have students, I know a number of the students were actually reading very well, and so you may be working on enrichment, comprehension. I took those literature units that I showed you in class over to the center. That's something that you might be able to utilize, and suggest that the tutors actually, read with the students, read to the students, and engage them in conversation related and follow-up activities related to either some selections, a number of books related to a specific theme, or a chapter book. So those are all ideas that you can use. And then you do need a mechanism for them gathering progress monitoring data from the students. You can get a lot of information based on the assessments that you use. There's progress monitoring data for all the components of the DIBELS. There's progress monitoring tools that can be used in terms of Maze and Easy CBM. You can just go on, show the students where to find those, or print them off, or download them and send them off to your tutor. As I mentioned in my email, I'm going to be reading over your recommendation summaries on Tuesday, getting you some feedback. I'll also talk with Andrea Elizondo, and she will be telling me which tutors you need to send or contact to share the information about the particular student with whom you worked. When you submit your final summary to me, you're also going to include a summary of the consultation meeting and how you think that it went. And I know that I've had students tell me they love going there and it's really been helpful to them, and that they've enjoyed the interaction. And some of you have hit some walls or have seen some things that you would like to see get better in terms of the services that the students are receiving. So you can feel free in that summary to share that with me. If you have feedback that you'd like to go to the center in terms of suggestions you have for improvement, as I mentioned when we had our optional class, feel free to share that information with me. And I do meet with Ms. Elizondo, and we are trying to work that out, because remember, this is a learning experience for all of us. We're trying to just make things better for the students and for their tutors who are wanting to do the best they can for the students that they serve. If you have questions for me related to any of this, please let me know. I'm happy to meet with you. I know that many of you have difficulty getting to the office, but I'm always happy to set up a time to either visit with you by telephone or to visit with you on Skype or in some other way, so that we can go over your work and make sure that you're on target, both to serve your student at the Garcia Center well, their tutor well, but also so that you get out of this what you need to get out of it in terms of your own learning. Please let me know as other questions come up, and I look forward to receiving those recommendation summaries on Monday evening by 11:59 p.m. Take care.